Hello. Tonight, we're going to gently explore what life was like on a pirate ship, drifting slowly across endless waters. Relax, close your eyes, let your body rest, and listen as the quiet rhythm of the sea carries you into the calm world of pirates. The soft light of early morning stretched gently across the endless surface of the ocean, where the horizon seemed to dissolve into a pale sky. The sea moved slowly, rising and falling in a calm, steady rhythm, its surface reflecting soft shades of blue and gold. A wooden pirate ship drifted quietly across the water, its sails relaxed in the gentle breeze, its structure creaking softly with each subtle movement. The sound of water brushing against the hull created a soothing, repetitive rhythm, blending with the faint calls of distant seabirds circling above. On deck, the crew began to wake, their movements slow and unhurried, as if guided by the same steady pulse of the sea. Some men stretched quietly, adjusting their simple clothing, while others moved toward the edges of the ship, looking out over the vast expanse of water. There was no rush, no sudden activity, only a gradual awakening, as the ship itself seemed to breathe with the ocean. The wooden planks beneath their feet were warm from the rising sun, textured with the marks of time and use. Ropes hung loosely along the sides, swaying gently with the motion of the ship. Barrels and crates were stacked carefully, their surfaces worn but stable, part of the quiet order that defined life at sea. A few crew members moved toward the sails, their hands working slowly and with practiced ease, adjusting ropes, tightening knots, ensuring everything remained in balance. Each movement was deliberate, calm, almost rhythmic. The captain stood near the helm, his posture relaxed yet attentive. He did not shout orders or rush the crew. Instead, he observed the sea, the wind, and the slow movement of the ship, making small adjustments when needed. His presence was steady, grounded, part of the same quiet flow that guided everything around him. Below deck, the air was cooler, filled with the scent of wood, salt, and stored goods. Hammocks hung gently from beams, swaying softly with the motion of the ship. Some crew members still rested there, their breathing slow, their bodies moving slightly with each wave. The dim light filtered through small openings, creating soft patterns that shifted with the movement above. As the morning continued, the sun rose higher, casting warm light across the deck. The sea sparkled gently, its surface calm and endless. The crew gathered in small groups, sharing simple food, dry bread, fruit, and water, eaten slowly, without urgency. Conversations were quiet, voices low, blending into the natural sounds of the ship and sea. Life aboard a pirate ship was not always filled with action or danger. Much of it was defined by waiting, by long hours of calm movement across open water. The crew adapted to this rhythm, their bodies and minds aligning with the slow passage of time. They repaired ropes, cleaned the deck, checked supplies, all done with steady, repetitive motions that created a sense of balance and order. The sails moved gently above, catching the breeze with a soft, continuous sound. Shadows shifted across the deck as the sun moved slowly through the sky. The ship itself felt alive, not through noise or speed, but through its constant, gentle motion, carried forward by the sea. Some crew members leaned against the railing, looking out at the horizon. Their gazes were calm, their thoughts distant, as if the vastness of the ocean invited quiet reflection. The line where sea met sky remained steady, unbroken, a constant presence that guided their journey. In the distance, a group of birds moved slowly across the sky, their wings beating in a steady rhythm. The wind carried their calls faintly, blending with the sound of water and wood. Everything felt connected, the sea, the ship, the sky, and those who moved within this space. As midday approached, the warmth of the sun deepened. The crew continued their tasks, their movements unchanged, their pace steady. There was no need for haste. The journey was long, and time moved differently here, stretched out across the endless water. Below deck, the soft sway of hammocks continued. Above, the deck remained calm, ordered, and quiet. The captain made small adjustments to the ship's direction, guided by the wind and the subtle movement of the waves. His actions were minimal, yet precise, part of the delicate balance that kept the ship moving forward. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction, its surface smooth and reflective. The ship moved through it slowly, leaving only a faint trace behind. The sky remained clear, its color soft and calming, creating a sense of openness and peace. As the afternoon began to approach, the light softened slightly, casting a warm glow across the scene. The rhythm of the ship remained unchanged, steady and continuous. The crew, now fully awake, moved with quiet efficiency, their actions blending into the larger flow of life at sea. Nothing felt forced. Nothing felt rushed. Everything followed a natural pace, guided by the wind, the water, and the quiet understanding shared among those on board. And as the ship continued its slow journey across the endless ocean, the story of life aboard a pirate ship began to unfold, not with sudden excitement, but with a calm, steady rhythm, inviting the listener to relax, to drift, and to be carried gently along with the peaceful movement of the sea. As the gentle movement of the ship continued across the open sea, the rhythm of daily life on board settled into a quiet and steady routine. The sun climbed slowly higher in the sky, casting a warm and even light across the deck, while the ocean remained calm, its surface moving in soft, repetitive waves. The ship creaked gently with each shift of the water, its wooden structure responding naturally to the endless motion beneath it. The sound was constant yet soothing, blending with the low whistle of the wind through the sails. On deck, the crew moved with a calm sense of purpose. There was no need for urgency, as each task followed the same pattern day after day. Some sailors gathered near the mainmast, carefully checking the ropes, their hands moving slowly over the rough fibers, tightening knots and adjusting lines with practiced ease. Others moved along the edges of the ship, scrubbing the wooden planks with water and simple tools, their motions repetitive and steady, creating a quiet rhythm that matched the gentle rocking of the vessel. Near the center of the deck, a few crew members prepared the day's simple meal. A small fire was carefully maintained in a secured space, its flames low and controlled. Metal pots rested above it, gently warming basic ingredients, salted meat, dried grains, and whatever fresh food remained from earlier stops. The smell was faint but comforting, mixing with the ever-present scent of salt and wood. The cooking was not rushed. It unfolded slowly, just like everything else on the ship. Below deck, the air remained cool and dim. Hammocks swayed gently in the filtered light, their slow movement synchronized with the waves outside. Some crew members rested there, taking advantage of the quiet hours, while others sorted supplies. Barrels were checked one by one, water, dried food, tools, each item accounted for with calm attention. The space was simple, organized, and functional, shaped by the needs of life at sea. Back on deck, the captain stood quietly near the helm, his gaze fixed on the horizon. He held no map in his hands at that moment, no visible sign of control, yet his awareness of the sea was constant. He watched the subtle changes in the wind, the movement of the clouds, the direction of the waves. From time to time, he made small adjustments, guiding the ship with minimal effort, allowing it to move naturally with the current rather than against them. The crew trusted this quiet leadership. There were no loud commands, no sudden changes. Instead, everything was guided by a shared understanding of the sea's rhythm. Each sailor knew his role, not through strict instruction, but through repetition and experience. Life on the ship was not chaotic, it was structured in a calm and steady way. As the day continued, the heat of the sun settled gently over the deck. Some crew members found small patches of shade near the sails or along the sides of the ship. They sat quietly, repairing clothing, sharpening tools, or simply resting. Conversations remained low and unhurried, often fading into silence as the sound of the ocean filled the space between words. The vastness of the sea encouraged this quiet. With nothing but water stretching endlessly in every direction, there was little need for constant talk. The mind naturally slowed, aligning with the steady motion of the ship. Time seemed to stretch, each moment flowing gently into the next without clear boundaries. Occasionally, a sailor would climb partway up the mast, moving carefully along the ropes to adjust the sails. His movements were slow and controlled, balanced against the gentle sway of the ship. From above, the view was endless, an unbroken expanse of water and sky, calm and quiet, with the ship drifting steadily through it. By midday, the simple meal was shared among the crew. They gathered in small groups, sitting wherever space allowed, eating slowly and without distraction. The food was basic, but it was enough. Each bite was taken calmly, accompanied by the soft sounds of the sea and the ship's steady creaking. There was no rush to finish, no urgency to move on. After eating, some returned to their tasks, while others took a moment to rest. A few leaned against the railing, looking out over the horizon, their eyes following the gentle rise and fall of the waves. The line between sea and sky remained soft and distant, unchanged, a constant point in an otherwise endless space. Below deck, the quiet continued. The dim light and gentle swaying created a peaceful environment, ideal for rest. The air carried the scent of wood, salt, and stored goods, familiar and steady. The ship itself seemed to breathe slowly, rising and falling with the ocean, its movement never abrupt, always smooth. As the afternoon approached, the light began to soften slightly. Shadows stretched gently across the deck, moving slowly with the position of the sun. The crew continued their work with the same calm rhythm, their movements unchanged, their pace steady. There was comfort in this repetition, in knowing that each day would follow a similar pattern. Life on a pirate ship was not defined by constant adventure, but by these quiet moments, these steady routines that filled the long stretches of time between events. It was a life shaped by patience, by awareness, and by the ability to exist within the slow, continuous flow of the sea. And as the ship carried on across the calm waters, guided by wind and current, the day moved forward without interruption, inviting the listener to relax, to let go of tension, and to drift gently along with the peaceful rhythm of life at sea. As the day slowly faded, the light over the ocean softened into warm shades of gold and pale orange, stretching gently across the water. The sun lowered toward the horizon, its reflection forming a long, shimmering path that moved with the waves. The ship continued its steady journey, carried forward by the same calm rhythm that had guided it throughout the day. Nothing changed suddenly, instead, everything shifted gradually, as if the world itself was gently preparing to rest. On deck, the crew adjusted their movements to match the evening. Tasks were completed slowly, without urgency. Ropes were checked one last time, sails adjusted slightly to catch the softer evening wind, and tools were placed back in their familiar positions. The wooden planks beneath their feet held the warmth of the day, while the air began to cool just enough to feel refreshing. The sound of the sea remained constant, its gentle rise and fall creating a soothing background that seemed to quiet the mind. The captain stood near the helm, his posture relaxed, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the sky and sea blended together. He watched the fading light with calm attention, making small adjustments when needed, always guided by the subtle changes in wind and current. His presence remained steady, a quiet anchor within the slow movement of the ship. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the colors of the sky deepened into soft purples and blues. The first stars appeared faintly, scattered across the darkening sky. The transition from day to night was smooth and unbroken, each moment flowing gently into the next. Lanterns were lit along the deck, their soft glow casting warm, flickering light on the wood and ropes. Shadows moved slowly with the motion of the ship, blending into the calm atmosphere. The crew divided naturally into smaller groups as night settled in. Some prepared to rest, moving below deck where hammocks swayed gently in the dim light. Others remained above, taking on the quiet responsibility of the night watch. There was no tension in this task, only a calm awareness of the surroundings, a steady observation of the sea and sky. The night watch moved slowly across the deck, their footsteps soft, their voices low. They checked the sails, glanced at the horizon, and listened to the subtle sounds of the ship. The creaking of wood, the whisper of wind, and the steady rhythm of water against the hull created a continuous, soothing soundscape. Below deck, the air was cool and still. Hammocks moved gently, cradling those who rested within them. The dim light filtered through small openings above, creating soft patterns that shifted with the movement of the ship. Breathing was slow, steady, in harmony with the rocking motion of the ocean. The space felt enclosed yet calm, like a quiet refuge from the vastness outside. Above, the sky had fully darkened, revealing a wide expanse of stars. They stretched endlessly in every direction, their light soft and distant. The moon rose slowly, casting a pale glow across the water. Its reflection shimmered gently on the surface, moving with each wave, creating a calming, almost hypnotic effect. The ship moved steadily through this quiet night, its presence small against the vast ocean and sky. The crew on watch remained alert, but not tense. Their movements were slow and deliberate, guided by experience and familiarity. Occasionally, one would pause at the railing, looking out into the distance, letting the quiet of the night settle into their thoughts. Time seemed to move differently at night. Without the bright markers of the day, moments stretched longer, blending into one another. The rhythm of the ship became even more noticeable, its gentle rocking creating a sense of calm that spread through the body and mind. The sound of the sea, steady and unchanging, filled the silence completely. Sometimes, faint shapes could be seen in the water, soft movements beneath the surface, barely visible in the moonlight. The ocean was alive, yet quiet, its presence vast and mysterious. The crew did not react with alarm, they simply observed, allowing these moments to pass naturally. The wind remained gentle, guiding the sails with a soft, continuous motion. The ropes creaked lightly, responding to the slight tension, while the ship itself moved forward without resistance. Everything worked together in quiet harmony, each element contributing to the overall balance. As the night deepened, the air grew cooler, carrying the scent of salt and distant water. The lanterns flickered softly, their light warm against the dark surroundings. Shadows stretched and shifted slowly, never abrupt, always blending into the calm atmosphere. Below deck, sleep came easily. The steady rocking of the ship, combined with the soft sounds of the sea, created a natural rhythm that guided the body into rest. Breathing slowed, muscles relaxed, and thoughts drifted gently away. The world outside faded, replaced by the quiet, consistent movement of the ocean. Above, the night watch continued their calm observation. There was no urgency, no sudden change, only the steady passage of time. The horizon remained dark and endless, the stars constant, the sea unbroken. The ship moved forward, guided by wind and current, its path smooth and uninterrupted. And as the hours passed quietly under the starlit sky, the entire world seemed to slow, inviting stillness, inviting rest. The gentle rhythm of the sea carried everything forward, unchanging, continuous, and deeply calming, allowing the listener to drift further into relaxation, following the peaceful motion of life aboard the ship through the quiet embrace of the night. As the night slowly gave way to the early hours before dawn, the calm rhythm of the sea began to shift ever so slightly. The movement of the waves grew a little deeper, a little more pronounced, though still steady and controlled. The sky above, once clear and filled with stars, now held faint, drifting clouds that moved quietly across the horizon. The change was subtle, almost unnoticeable at first, like a gentle variation in the rhythm of breathing. On deck, the crew on night watch sensed this shift, not with alarm, but with quiet awareness. Their movements remained slow and measured as they glanced toward the sky and the sea. The wind carried a slightly stronger presence, brushing against the sails with a soft but persistent sound. The ropes responded with faint tension, creaking gently as they adjusted to the changing air. The captain stepped forward from the shadows, his posture calm, his gaze steady. He observed the horizon, the clouds, the movement of the water, taking in every detail without haste. There was no urgency in his actions, only a quiet understanding that the sea was beginning to move differently. He gave a few soft instructions, his voice low and controlled, guiding the crew without disturbing the calm atmosphere. The sails were adjusted carefully, ropes tightened just enough to maintain balance. Each movement was deliberate, practiced, and smooth, part of a routine that had been repeated many times before. The ship responded naturally, its wooden frame shifting gently with the waves, its motion still steady despite the growing energy of the sea. As the first light of dawn approached, the sky took on a muted grey-blue tone. The sun had not yet risen, but its presence was hinted at beneath the horizon. The ocean reflected this soft light, its surface now slightly more textured, waves rising and falling with a deeper motion. The sound of water against the hull became a little stronger, yet it remained rhythmic and consistent, never chaotic. Below deck, the crew resting in their hammocks continued to sleep, gently rocked by the movement of the ship. The sway was a bit more noticeable now, but still smooth, like a slow, steady cradle. The air remained cool and calm, filled with the familiar scent of wood and salt. Above, the crew continued their quiet work. Some moved along the deck, securing loose items, ensuring that barrels and crates were firmly in place. Others adjusted the sails, their hands moving with careful precision. No one rushed. There was no panic, only a shared understanding of what needed to be done. The wind grew slightly stronger, filling the sails with a steady pressure. The fabric stretched gently, creating a soft, continuous sound as it caught the air. The ship leaned just a little into the wind, its movement still controlled, still balanced. The ocean beneath responded in kind, its waves lifting the ship and lowering it again in a slow, predictable rhythm. As the sun began to rise, its light broke softly through the clouds, casting a pale glow across the water. The scene remained calm, though more dynamic than before. The waves shimmered with subtle highlights, their movement steady and flowing. The sky, now a mix of soft grey and warm light, added to the tranquil yet evolving atmosphere. The captain remained at the helm, his hands steady, his attention focused. He made small adjustments, guiding the ship through the changing conditions with ease. His presence was reassuring, a constant within the shifting environment. The crew trusted this steadiness, allowing them to move with the same calm confidence. A light spray of seawater occasionally reached the deck, cool and refreshing, carried by the wind. It settled briefly on the wood before disappearing, leaving behind a faint shimmer. The sound of the waves, now slightly louder, continued its steady pattern, never breaking its rhythm. Time moved forward without interruption. The ship adapted naturally, its structure built to move with the sea rather than resist it. The crew, experienced and patient, followed this same principle. They did not fight the change, they adjusted to it, allowing the rhythm to guide their actions. As the morning progressed, the clouds began to thin, and the light grew warmer. The sea gradually softened, its waves returning to a gentler motion. The wind eased, the sails relaxed, and the ship straightened into its usual steady path. The temporary shift had passed, leaving behind the same calm continuity that defined life at sea. The crew returned to their usual tasks, their movements unchanged, their pace steady. Some resumed cleaning the deck, others checked the ropes once more, ensuring everything was in order. The moment of change faded quietly into memory, becoming just another part of the ongoing journey. Below deck, those who had been resting began to wake, unaware of how smoothly the night's variation had been handled. They stretched slowly, adjusting to the gentle motion of the ship, which had now returned to its familiar rhythm. The ocean stretched endlessly once more, calm and reflective under the rising sun. The horizon was clear again, the sky soft and open. The ship moved forward as it always had, guided by wind, water, and the quiet understanding of those on board. And as the day continued, the brief shift in the sea became part of the natural flow, a reminder that even change could be calm, that even movement could remain gentle and controlled. The rhythm of the ocean, steady and unbroken, carried everything forward once again, inviting the listener to relax, to let go, and to drift peacefully along with the endless motion of the sea. As the sea returned to its familiar calm, the steady rhythm of the ship once again aligned perfectly with the gentle movement of the waves. The sky above was clear, stretching endlessly in soft shades of blue during the day, and slowly transforming into a vast canvas of stars as evening approached. Life on the pirate ship continued in its quiet, repetitive flow, guided not only by the wind and water, but by a deeper understanding of direction and time. Navigation, though essential, was not rushed or chaotic. It unfolded slowly, like everything else at sea, shaped by observation, patience, and experience. The captain and a few trusted sailors spent time studying the horizon, the position of the sun, and later, the stars. Their movements were calm and deliberate, their attention focused yet relaxed. On the deck, a simple wooden table was sometimes used to lay out maps, worn sheets marked with lines, symbols, and faint drawings of coastlines. The edges were softened by time, and the ink had faded in places, yet the knowledge they carried remained steady. The captain would trace routes slowly with his finger, not as a precise calculation, but as a quiet confirmation of the ship's path. There was no urgency, only a steady awareness of where they had come from and where they were going. As the day passed into evening, the light softened once more. The sun lowered gently, casting warm tones across the water, before slipping quietly beneath the horizon. The transition to night was smooth, unbroken, and deeply calming. The first stars appeared gradually, faint at first, then brighter as the sky darkened into deep shades of indigo. The crew on deck adjusted to the evening with ease. Some prepared lanterns, lighting them carefully and placing them where their soft glow would guide movement without disturbing the calm. Others continued small tasks, coiling ropes, securing items, maintaining the steady order of the ship. Conversations were quiet, often fading into silence as the vastness of the night sky drew attention upward. The stars became a guide, not just for direction, but for rhythm. The captain looked to them with calm familiarity, recognizing patterns that had been observed for generations. The constellations moved slowly across the sky, their position shifting gently as the night progressed. There was no need for complex instruments in every moment. Often, it was simple observation, repeated over time, that provided all the guidance needed. One sailor stood near the helm, his gaze alternating between the stars and the horizon. His posture was relaxed, his breathing slow, as he followed the steady course of the ship. Another leaned against the railing, looking upward, allowing the quiet beauty of the night sky to fill his thoughts. The vastness above seemed to slow time itself, creating a sense of stillness that spread through the entire ship. Below deck, the gentle sway of hammocks continued, synchronized with the movement of the sea. The air was cool and calm, filled with the familiar scent of wood and salt. Those resting there drifted easily into sleep, guided by the consistent motion and the distant, soothing sounds of the ocean. Above, the ship moved steadily forward, its sails catching the soft night wind. The fabric shifted gently, creating a quiet, continuous sound. The ropes held their tension, creaking lightly, while the wooden structure responded to the waves with smooth, controlled movement. Everything worked together in quiet harmony, each part contributing to the overall balance. Occasionally, a faint glow could be seen in the water, as if tiny lights moved just beneath the surface. The sea reflected the stars above, creating a subtle illusion of light both above and below. The effect was calming, almost dreamlike, reinforcing the peaceful atmosphere of the night. The captain made small adjustments from time to time, turning the wheel slightly, responding to the wind or the gentle pull of the current. His movements were minimal, yet precise, guided by experience rather than urgency. He trusted the rhythm of the sea, allowing it to carry the ship forward naturally. As the hours passed, the stars continued their slow movement across the sky. The night remained calm, undisturbed, its silence filled only by the steady sounds of the ship and the ocean. The crew on watch moved quietly, their presence almost blending into the stillness around them. Time felt stretched, each moment flowing gently into the next without clear boundaries. The concept of hours faded, replaced by a continuous sense of motion and rest combined. The sea did not rush, and neither did those who traveled upon it. In the distance, the horizon remained dark and endless, a constant line that guided the ship forward. The sky above, filled with stars, provided quiet reassurance, a reminder that even in the vastness of the ocean, there was always a path to follow. As the night deepened, the air grew slightly cooler, and the lanterns flickered softly, their light warm against the surrounding darkness. The ship continued its steady course, its movement smooth and uninterrupted. And within this calm, guided by the stars and the gentle rhythm of the sea, life on the pirate ship carried on, quiet, balanced, and deeply soothing, inviting the listener to relax further, to let go of tension, and to drift peacefully along with the endless, timeless motion of the ocean. As the steady journey across the open sea continued, life on the pirate ship remained guided by a quiet sense of order, one that did not rely on loud commands or strict discipline, but on a shared understanding of roles and responsibilities. Everything moved in balance, like the gentle rhythm of the waves, each person contributing in their own way to the smooth flow of life on board. The captain, though central to the ship's direction, was not a distant or unreachable figure. He moved calmly among the crew, his presence steady and grounded. His decisions were made with quiet confidence, based on experience and careful observation. He did not need to raise his voice, his authority came naturally, shaped by trust rather than fear. When he spoke, his tone was even and measured, and the crew listened not out of obligation, but out of respect. Near the helm, where the ship's direction was gently guided, a small group of experienced sailors often worked together. One would keep a steady hand on the wheel, adjusting it slightly as the wind and waves shifted. Another might observe the sails, ensuring they held the wind properly, their movement slow and precise. These roles were not fixed in a rigid way, but shared and understood, allowing the crew to move fluidly between tasks as needed. Across the deck, each crew member had a place within this quiet structure. Some were responsible for maintaining the ropes and sails, checking them regularly, repairing small signs of wear before they became problems. Their hands moved steadily over the coarse fibers, tying knots with practiced ease, their motions calm and repetitive. Others focused on the condition of the ship itself, cleaning the deck, reinforcing wooden surfaces, ensuring that everything remained strong and balanced. Below deck, another layer of life unfolded. A few crew members took care of the supplies, organizing barrels, checking water levels, and managing food stores. Their work was quiet and methodical, guided by routine rather than urgency. Each item had its place, and maintaining this order brought a sense of stability to life at sea. The cook, though working with simple ingredients, played an important role. Meals were prepared slowly, without haste, using what was available. The process itself was calm and repetitive, adding another steady rhythm to the day. The smell of warm food, though simple, brought comfort, blending with the familiar scent of wood and salt. Even the youngest or least experienced sailors found their place within this gentle system. They observed, learned, and gradually took on small tasks, coiling ropes, carrying water, assisting where needed. There was no pressure to rush their growth. Knowledge was passed down slowly, through demonstration and repetition, allowing each person to adapt naturally to the life of the ship. Despite this structure, there was a sense of equality among the crew. Decisions, especially important ones, were often discussed calmly, with voices shared rather than imposed. This created a balance where authority existed, but was not overwhelming. The ship functioned not as a rigid hierarchy, but as a connected group moving together with the same rhythm. As the day moved forward, the sunlight shifted gently across the deck, casting soft patterns that changed with time. The crew continued their tasks, their movement steady and unhurried. There was comfort in knowing what needed to be done, in following the familiar flow of responsibilities that guided each day. Occasionally, small moments of rest appeared naturally. A sailor might pause by the railing, looking out over the horizon, allowing the endless view of the sea to quiet his thoughts. Another might sit briefly in the shade, adjusting a piece of equipment or simply breathing in the calm air. These moments were not interruptions, they were part of the rhythm itself. The captain, too, took time to observe rather than act. He stood quietly, watching the sea, the sky, and his crew, understanding that not every moment required intervention. His role was not to control every detail, but to guide the overall direction, allowing the natural balance of the ship to remain undisturbed. As the afternoon softened into evening, the structure of the crew adapted once more. Some prepared to take the night watch, while others finished their tasks and moved below deck to rest. The transition was smooth, almost unnoticed, as each person shifted into their role without disruption. The lanterns were lit, casting a warm glow across the deck. The shadows moved gently, blending with the soft light, creating a calm and peaceful atmosphere. The ship continued forward, guided by the same steady rhythm that had defined the entire day. Within this quiet system, life on the pirate ship felt balanced and complete. There was no need for constant change, no demand for speed or urgency. Each role, each task, each movement contributed to a larger harmony, one that allowed the ship to move smoothly across the endless ocean. And as the crew continued their steady routine, guided by trust, experience, and shared understanding, the calm rhythm of life at sea remained unbroken, inviting the listener to relax further, to let go of tension, and to drift gently along with the peaceful flow of the ship and the sea. As the steady journey across the open sea continued, a subtle change appeared on the distant horizon. At first, it was only a faint shape, barely visible where the sky met the water. But as time passed, the outline became clearer, a small island, resting quietly in the vast ocean. It did not appear suddenly or dramatically. Instead, it revealed itself slowly, like everything else at sea, emerging gently from the distance. The crew noticed it with calm curiosity. There was no rush of excitement, no sudden movement across the deck. A few sailors leaned lightly against the railing, their eyes following the shape as it grew more defined. The captain observed it quietly, his gaze steady, his posture relaxed. He made no immediate command, only small, thoughtful adjustments to guide the ship closer at a slow and controlled pace. The water near the island shifted in color, becoming lighter, more transparent. Beneath the surface, faint shapes of sand and rock could be seen through the gentle movement of the waves. The sound of the sea changed slightly as well, becoming softer, more contained, as the ship moved into calmer, shallower waters. The sails were adjusted with care, their tension eased as the ship slowed. Ropes moved gently, creaking softly, while the wooden hull responded to the change in motion with a smoother, quieter rhythm. Everything remained calm, deliberate, and unhurried. As the ship drew closer, the details of the island became visible. Tall palm trees swayed lightly in the breeze, their leaves moving in soft, rhythmic patterns. The shoreline stretched in a quiet curve of pale sand, untouched and peaceful. There were no signs of movement, no noise, only the gentle presence of nature existing in its own steady rhythm. The ship came to a slow stop just off the shore, its movement gradually settling into stillness. A small boat was lowered carefully into the water, the process done with the same calm precision that defined every task on board. The crew moved without urgency, their actions smooth and practiced. A few sailors stepped into the boat, followed by the captain, and together they began the short journey toward the island. The sound of the oars dipping into the water created a soft, repetitive rhythm. Each stroke was slow and even, guiding the boat forward without disturbance. The surface of the sea responded gently, forming small ripples that spread outward and disappeared quietly. As they reached the shore, the boat touched the sand with a light, almost silent contact. The sailors stepped out slowly, their feet sinking slightly into the soft surface. The air felt different here, still carrying the scent of salt, but mixed with the subtle fragrance of plants and earth. It was calm, warm, and peaceful. The crew walked along the shore without hurry. Some paused to look at the water, watching the gentle waves roll in and out. Others moved toward the trees, their footsteps soft against the ground. The island was quiet, untouched by noise or movement, offering a moment of stillness that felt separate from the endless motion of the sea. A few sailors began simple tasks, collecting fresh water from a small natural source, gathering fruit, checking the surrounding area. Their actions remained slow and careful, respectful of the calm environment. There was no need to rush. The time spent here was not about urgency, but about balance, about maintaining the steady rhythm of life. The captain walked slightly apart, observing the island with the same calm awareness he showed at sea. His gaze moved across the trees, the shoreline, the horizon beyond. He seemed to absorb the stillness, allowing it to settle into his thoughts. The crew, too, felt this calm. Their movement slowed even further, their voices softened, often fading into silence. The gentle sound of leaves moving in the breeze replaced conversation, creating a natural and soothing background. Time passed quietly. The sun moved slowly across the sky, casting soft light through the trees, creating patterns that shifted gently on the ground. The air remained warm but not heavy, the breeze light and consistent. Eventually, the crew began to return to the boat, carrying what they had gathered. The process was as calm as their arrival. Each step was steady, each movement deliberate. The island remained unchanged, quiet and peaceful, as if their presence had barely touched it. The boat moved back toward the ship, the oars dipping into the water with the same soft rhythm. The shoreline slowly receded, becoming once again a distant shape against the horizon. The ship awaited them, resting gently on the calm water, its sails relaxed, its structure steady. As the crew climbed back on board, everything returned to its familiar pattern. Supplies were stored, ropes adjusted, the small boat secured once more. The captain gave a quiet signal, and the sails were slowly raised again, catching the gentle wind. The ship began to move, leaving the island behind without disruption. The ocean opened once more in every direction, vast and endless. The rhythm of the waves returned to its steady pattern, guiding the ship forward. The island faded slowly into the distance, becoming part of the journey, a quiet moment within the larger flow. And as the ship continued across the calm sea, the memory of the island remained, not as something distant or lost, but as a peaceful pause within the endless rhythm of life at sea, inviting the listener to relax even further, to breathe slowly, and to drift gently along with the calm, unbroken movement of the ocean. As the ship continued its slow journey across the open sea, the steady rhythm of life on board remained unchanged, guided by the gentle motion of the waves and the soft whisper of the wind. Days passed quietly, blending into one another, until subtle conversations began to appear among the crew, quiet mentions of distant places, of hidden shores, of something resting beneath layers of time and sand. The idea of treasure did not arrive with excitement or urgency. It emerged softly, like a distant memory, shared in low voices during calm moments on deck. The crew spoke of it not as something to chase, but as something that simply existed somewhere beyond the horizon. The captain listened to these conversations without interruption. His expression remained calm, his posture steady, as always. When he finally responded, it was with a quiet nod, a simple acknowledgement rather than a command. The course of the ship did not change suddenly. Instead, small adjustments were made over time, almost unnoticeable, guiding the vessel gently in a new direction. The sea, as always, accepted this shift without resistance. The waves continued their slow movement, the wind filled the sails with the same soft consistency, and the ship moved forward as if it had always been heading this way. There was no sense of urgency, no pressure to arrive quickly. The journey itself remained the focus, each moment unfolding with the same calm rhythm. On deck, life continued in its steady flow. The crew maintained the sails, checked the ropes, and carried out their daily routines. Yet beneath this familiar pattern, there was a quiet awareness of direction, a subtle understanding that the ship was moving toward something unknown, yet peaceful. In the evenings, as the sun lowered and the sky softened into warm tones, the crew sometimes gathered in small groups. They sat quietly, their voices low, sharing simple stories of past journeys, of places they had seen, of moments that had passed like the waves beneath them. The idea of treasure was woven gently into these stories, never dominating them, always part of a larger, calmer narrative. The captain occasionally brought out a worn map, its surface marked with faint lines and symbols. He would place it on the wooden table, tracing its path slowly with his finger. The map was not perfectly clear, and that did not matter. It served more as a guide for direction than a precise destination. The crew observed it with quiet interest, their minds drifting gently between the lines drawn on the page and the endless horizon beyond. As days turned into nights and nights into days, the rhythm of the ship remained steady. The stars continued to guide them, the sun marked the passage of time, and the sea carried them forward without interruption. The journey itself became a form of stillness, a continuous movement that required no force, only presence. Eventually, a subtle change appeared on the horizon once more. A stretch of land, low and quiet, emerged in the distance. It did not stand out dramatically. It rested there calmly, as if it had always been part of the ocean's landscape. The crew noticed it in silence, their gazes steady, their movements unchanged. The ship approached slowly, its sails adjusted just enough to guide it closer. The water became lighter again, revealing the soft shapes beneath the surface. The sound of the waves softened, their rhythm more contained as the ship entered calmer waters. Once near the shore, the ship came to rest gently, just as it had before. A small group of crew members, including the captain, prepared to go ashore. The process was familiar, calm, and unhurried. The boat was lowered, the oars dipped into the water, and they moved toward the land with the same steady rhythm. The shore was quiet, covered in soft sand and scattered with natural shapes, stones, plants, subtle markings left by time. There was no dramatic discovery, no sudden moment of revelation. Instead, the crew walked slowly, observing the land with quiet attention. The map guided them loosely, but it was not followed with strict precision. They moved gently, allowing the environment to guide their steps. Eventually, they reached a place where the ground felt slightly different, firmer, shaped in a subtle way that suggested something beneath. The crew paused, their movement slowing even further. They began to dig, not with urgency, but with steady, patient effort. The sound of sand shifting was soft, blending into the natural silence around them. Time passed quietly as they worked. The sun moved slowly across the sky, the breeze remained gentle, and the island stayed calm and undisturbed. Then, gradually, something solid appeared beneath the surface, a wooden chest, worn by time, its edges softened, its presence quiet and unassuming. There was no rush to open it. The crew simply uncovered it fully, brushing away the remaining sand with care. When the chest was finally opened, its contents reflected the soft light: gold coins, small objects, pieces shaped by distant hands. Yet even this moment remained calm. The treasure did not bring noise or excitement. It simply existed, another part of the journey, another element within the steady flow of time. The crew observed it quietly, acknowledging its presence without letting it disturb their rhythm. After a time, the chest was carefully lifted and carried back toward the boat. The process was slow and controlled, each movement deliberate. The island remained peaceful, unchanged by their presence. As they returned to the ship, the sea welcomed them once more with its gentle motion. The chest was secured among the other items on board, becoming part of the ship's quiet existence. Life continued as it always had. The sails were raised, the wind carried them forward, and the island slowly faded into the distance. The treasure, now part of their journey, did not change the rhythm of life. It simply existed within it, another quiet layer in the ongoing flow. And as the ship moved once more across the endless ocean, guided by wind, water, and calm understanding, the story continued, not as a tale of sudden discovery, but as a gentle progression, inviting the listener to relax, to let go, and to drift peacefully along with the soft, unbroken rhythm of the sea. As the ship continued its steady journey across the open sea, carrying with it the quiet memory of distant shores and hidden places, the rhythm of life on board remained unchanged. The presence of the treasure did not disturb the calm flow that had guided every moment before. It rested silently among the ship's supplies, its value not measured in excitement, but simply as another part of the journey, something discovered, then gently absorbed into the ongoing rhythm of life at sea. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction, its surface smooth and reflective under the soft light of the sky. Days passed slowly, blending into one another with a natural ease. The crew returned fully to their familiar routines, their movement steady, their pace unhurried. They repaired ropes, cleaned the deck, prepared simple meals, and rested when needed. Nothing felt different, and yet everything felt complete. The captain remained at the helm, his presence as calm as ever. He did not speak often, but his quiet awareness guided the ship forward. His gaze moved between the horizon and the sails, adjusting the course gently when needed, always in harmony with the wind and the sea. There was no final destination that demanded urgency. The journey itself was enough. In the mornings, the sun rose slowly, casting warm light across the deck. The wooden planks glowed softly, and the sea shimmered with gentle reflections. The crew woke gradually, their movements slow and natural, as if guided by the same rhythm that moved the waves beneath them. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of salt and the quiet promise of another peaceful day. By midday, the warmth of the sun settled gently over the ship. Some sailors worked in the open light, while others rested in the shade of the sails. Conversations remained soft, often fading into silence as the vastness of the ocean invited quiet reflection. The horizon remained unchanged, a constant line that separated sea and sky, steady and reassuring. In the afternoons, the light softened, and the shadows stretched slowly across the deck. The ship continued its calm movement, leaving behind only faint traces on the water. Time felt fluid, unbroken, each moment flowing gently into the next without resistance. There was comfort in this continuity, in the absence of urgency, in the steady presence of the sea. As evening approached, the sky shifted once more into warm tones of gold and amber. The sun lowered gradually, its light fading into the horizon. The crew completed their tasks with the same calm precision, storing tools, adjusting sails, and preparing for the quiet of the night. Lanterns were lit softly, their glow warm and steady, casting gentle shadows that moved with the ship. The night brought its familiar stillness. The stars appeared one by one, filling the sky with soft, distant light. The moon rose slowly, its reflection shimmering across the water. The ship moved through this calm darkness without disturbance, guided by the same quiet understanding that had carried it from the beginning. Some crew members rested below deck, their hammocks swaying gently with the motion of the sea. Above, the night watch moved quietly, their footsteps soft, their presence steady. They observed the horizon, the sails, the sky, maintaining the same calm awareness that defined every part of life on board. There was no tension, no sudden change, only the continuous flow of time. The sound of the sea remained constant, a soft and endless rhythm that filled the silence completely. The creaking of wood, the whisper of wind, and the gentle movement of water blended together into a soothing soundscape, one that invited rest and stillness. Days and nights continued to pass in this same peaceful pattern. The ship moved forward without hurry, carried by wind and current, its path smooth and uninterrupted. The crew, shaped by this rhythm, existed within it effortlessly, their lives aligned with the steady motion of the ocean. The treasure, once a distant idea, now simply rested among them, no longer a goal, but a quiet presence. It did not define their journey. It did not change their rhythm. It was just another part of the story, gently woven into the flow of time. As the journey continued, the world seemed to expand into calm simplicity. The sea, the sky, the ship, and those on board all moved together in quiet harmony. There was no need for change, no demand for speed. Everything existed exactly as it was meant to be. And as the ship drifted gently across the endless ocean, the rhythm of life slowed even further, inviting the body to relax, the mind to quiet, and the breath to settle into a calm, steady pattern. The sound of the waves softened, the motion of the ship became almost imperceptible, and the world seemed to fade into a gentle stillness. The story, like the journey itself, did not end abruptly. It continued softly, blending into the quiet rhythm of the sea, allowing everything to settle into peace. And as the ship moved forward under the vast sky, guided by wind, water, and time, the gentle motion carried everything into rest, into calm, into silence, and into sleep. As the ship continued to move slowly across the endless sea, the rhythm of everything softened even further, as if the world itself was gently preparing to rest. The waves, once clearly felt beneath the ship, now seemed smoother, more distant, their motion blending into a quiet, continuous flow. The sound of water against the hull became softer, more subtle, like a calm breath repeating again and again. The sky above remained vast and open, filled with faint stars that shimmered gently in the distance. The moon hung quietly, casting a pale and soothing light across the ocean. Its reflection stretched across the surface of the water, moving slowly with each gentle wave, creating a soft, hypnotic pattern that invited stillness. On deck, the ship was nearly silent. The crew, now fully at rest, lay in their hammocks below or sat quietly in still positions, their movements minimal, their breathing slow. The night watch remained, but even their presence felt lighter, softer, as if they were simply part of the calm atmosphere rather than separate from it. Their footsteps were barely noticeable, their gazes steady but relaxed, observing without effort. The sails moved gently above, catching the faint wind with a soft, continuous motion. The ropes held their quiet tension, creaking occasionally, but never breaking the calm. The wooden structure of the ship responded to the sea with smooth, almost imperceptible shifts, as if it were floating rather than moving. Time no longer felt measured. There were no clear moments, no distinct changes, only a continuous flow, a gentle progression that carried everything forward without resistance. The boundary between one moment and the next faded, replaced by a steady sense of presence. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction, calm and unbroken. There were no distant shapes, no approaching land, no interruptions, only the quiet expanse of water and sky existing together in perfect balance. The ship moved within this space, guided not by urgency, but by the natural rhythm of the world itself. Below deck, the gentle sway of the hammocks created a soothing motion, like a slow and steady cradle. The air was cool and still, filled with the familiar scent of wood and salt. Breathing deepened, muscles relaxed, and thoughts became softer, drifting slowly like the waves outside. Above, the stars continued their silent movement across the sky. Their light remained constant, distant, and calm. The moonlight shimmered softly on the water, creating a quiet glow that blended into the darkness without contrast or tension. Everything felt balanced, smooth, and at ease. The ship itself seemed to dissolve into this calm. Its edges softened, its presence blending with the sea and sky, becoming part of the same continuous rhythm. The distinction between the ship and the ocean faded, leaving only motion, only stillness within movement. The sound of the waves slowed even further, becoming a gentle, repeating pattern that echoed softly in the background. It was not loud, not demanding, just a quiet presence, steady and comforting, guiding the mind into deeper relaxation. The night carried on without change. There were no sudden movements, no unexpected sounds. Everything remained consistent, predictable, and calm. The world had settled into a peaceful balance where nothing needed to happen and nothing needed to change. The body, following this rhythm, began to release any remaining tension. Shoulders softened, breathing slowed, and the mind gradually let go of its thoughts. Each wave, each gentle movement of the ship, carried away any lingering energy, leaving only calm behind. The horizon, though unseen in the darkness, remained steady. The sky above, filled with soft light, continued its slow, silent motion. The ocean below, endless and smooth, carried everything forward without effort. And within this quiet, continuous flow, the story gently faded, not with an ending, but with a soft transition into stillness. The ship continued its journey, unseen and unbroken, moving endlessly across the calm sea. The waves continued their gentle motion, the stars their silent glow, the wind its soft whisper. Everything remained as it was, peaceful and steady. And as the rhythm of the sea became slower, softer, and more distant, the world itself seemed to quiet completely, allowing the mind to rest, allowing the body to relax, and gently guiding everything into deep, calm, and peaceful sleep.